Burnout doesn't happen because of high expectations. It happens because of unclear ones. You know, those companies that can never get their shit together and change their priority every year, or reintroduce new values all the time, or even those managers who just change the project, or can't make decisions, or things that are urgent all the time. Not every task is urgent. Not every task has to be done like today, right? But that's the things that create burnout. And then as a result, your employees don't like working for you anymore, and they start taking more time off. Those 6 paid sick days that maybe you pay for, they're gonna be used up, or that extra vacation time is gonna happen. Or maybe your employees are gonna work from home a lot more because they just don't wanna see you. All because you did not manage workload appropriately. As an employee some time ago, I got assigned to a project with a leader who had requested to work with me. They wanted me because I'm very straightforward. So sometimes that's a positive thing and sometimes that's not, I'm okay with it, but not everyone is all the time. So this project was supposed to last about 6 months. And I was happy to be part of it. I'm always happy to learn new things, etc. And at one of our first meetings, we had an agenda, we had our timeline, everything was divided, who was going to do what, etc. And so really we left our initial meeting knowing that, what our tasks were to do and timeline, etc. So fast forward now, realizing this leader would send text messages and emails and call. And if you didn't answer her right away, you'd get a message like, why aren't you answering me? If you didn't respond to the email within 2 hours, you'd get a follow-up email. And sometimes she wasn't just asking a question, she needed a report. So you needed actually to do work. And so this just continued. And it was one thing after the other. And everything was just rushed all the time. And I started having bad sleep. And I started actually being bothered by this. And I don't usually get anxious. This is just not my personality. I'm a very organized person. And I just usually don't let these things get to me. She was getting to me, and it finally clued in one night when I couldn't sleep and this was rolling around in my head. And I was like, oh my God, she's creating burnout, because I couldn't rest. I couldn't do my own job because I was so involved in this project, and everything, like I said, had to be now, right? And so her personality was creating burnout, and not just me, and obviously the rest of the team and the project team. And we had to approach her about it and be like, what's going on? And she just had this need and desire to want to complete the project in 3 months instead of 6, and wanted to show off for the organization. And I was like, we can't do this. Like, we have 6 months, let's use 6 months. There's no need why we had to do it shorter. So it took a long time, but once we started explaining to her that we're all gonna drop out because she's creating burnout, then she finally clued in. I'm José LaRock Patton, and I help leaders try to make those uncomfortable conversations just a little bit more comfortable. I've racked my brain around burnout for quite some time, just like many of you, because it just seems to be happening and it's a lot more popular. And I always want to use my own personal experiences, because I feel if I'm going through it, someone else must be going through it. So just like the experience and the example I provided earlier, where I didn't really realize at the beginning what was going on about having to have all these tasks done, right now, today, etc., and all this pressure that was being put on me. And again, I consider myself to be a pretty strong individual, so I always think I could handle it. But once I realized that I wasn't sleeping and it was really affecting me, I kind of realized my first tip to help leaders is you've got to identify what does winning look like, So one of the things that I've now used from that example is when I'm coaching leaders is I let them know is you should tell your employees or ask your employees, what does winning look like to you? And ask them a specific question. If you could achieve 3 things this week, what would they be? And then that employee feels a little bit more enticed to actually narrow down all the tasks they have to do, figure out the most important tasks that they have to do because they want to please their leader, they want to do good for the company. But the key to this is once they achieve those three things, that's what winning looks like, right? And so it helps your employee feel happy and feel like they've accomplished something and they're making a difference. And playing to someone's happiness and psyche is important. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but we all know when people are happy, they make other people happy, right? Which means they'll feel less burnt out. So my first tip again is to identify what does winning look like. And if you're looking for a guide that can help you provide more tips about that, just don't forget, click the link below. So my second tip on things that can help reduce burnout in a workplace is when a leader is looking at all the tasks that they have to do, it's sort of normal that the leader will go to a meeting with heads of the company, and then all of a sudden they realize that they have more work that they have to do and they're going to divide all this work, right? The challenge is when the leader is providing their employees with more work, are they taking away work? And many of them are not, right? So the second tip is we have to also create a stop doing list. We can't just create a to-do list. We also have to create a stop to-do list. And that helps people. However, again, I would send it back to your employees. And if there's more important tasks that you want your team to do, ask them what can be taken off your plate that maybe is not as important, or perhaps you may feel it's redundant, or maybe even just not useful. So again, you're allowing the employee to create their stop doing list. Of course, you're going to coach and guide them in the right area so that you would still ensure that there'll be things to get done and the tasks that you want done will get done eventually, right? But it's still important to have that stop doing list, because if you're adding more things, you have to take off stuff. When you don't take off things, then people think, oh, right, I still have all of that other stuff to do at some point. But then that sticks in our head and then it creates anxiety and doesn't allow us to sleep at night. And, so that stop doing list will go a long way to help people feel much less burnt out. So my third and final one, though, is something else that I've thought about related to burnout is think of us as athletes, right? Any employee is an athlete because they're using their mind, they're exercising their brain. And the more that we exercise it, the more we learn, the more we create trends, the better we can be, just like an athlete in some shape or form, right? When an athlete is training for the Olympics or training for something, they usually have recovery time. When we are putting all of our efforts into a project, or if there's, a big report that has to be done, something like that, we're just pushing, using all of our brain power. But do we ever schedule recovery time? We don't, or very rarely. I do know some organizations will have recovery time, and at the end of the really hard day, they'll be like, okay, let's go for a drink. And that's okay, to sort of release and stuff. But not everybody wants to go out for a drink. And certainly not everybody wants to be using their personal time hanging out with their work colleagues. No offense, but a lot of people would like to have their personal time for their own personal time. So scheduling some recovery time at work is important, because really they're using work time to do those projects. Why can't they use work time for recovery? And maybe that is just an hour. Or another thing that I've also suggested for recovery time, don't schedule meetings on a Friday. A Friday is crucial for people to catch up on things, plan for the next week, etc. Those companies that schedule things at 2, 3, 4 o'clock on Fridays, oh my God, I feel like you're cruel, So instead, have Friday as your recovery day. And then you can allow your team to finish anything that they didn't finish that week, and also prepare for the following week, so that when they go into Saturday, Sunday, which is supposed to be their me time, they're actually going to be a little bit more relaxed. So just to recap, right? Our first one is to ensure that we're going to increase clarity. So make sure that you're going to increase your clarity with your team, and you're going to allow them to know, what does winning look like? Our second tip is to ensure that you're going to remove things. So remove things that are redundant, remove waste, etc. And our third and final tip to help reduce burnout in the workplace is protect your energy. You know, we all deserve an opportunity to give everything we have to our job, but we should also get something in return. So if you're looking for our next video on tips and tricks for HR that can help you as a leader create those uncomfortable conversations just a little bit more comfortable, I look forward to seeing you on our next video.